hoping it won't. For those of you that don't know, by way of introduction, I'm John, Chair of Purfleet-on-Thames Community Forum. Trevor is Vice Chair and he's working the slides, and Claire is Secretary and she's looking at everything else, hopefully. The rules for this meeting are the same as for our open meetings. So it might pay you just to have a quick look at the code of conduct, but I see that everybody that's in attendance should be very well behaved. As we move on, please note that this meeting is being recorded. So, unfortunately, if you don't want to be recorded, then this might be the time when you want to leave us. But I hope you don't, and you don't mind, because it will only be so that we can pick up on anything we might or might not have missed during the meeting. We have two apologies, one from Kate R, who is one of our councillors, and Lynn Mansfield, who is a committee member. Have we got any other apologies? Did anyone know? No? Right. That's great. Item 3. This is the reason we've called this a special meeting. It's so that we can add on a bit to our constitution. Mainly so that it will hopefully allow us to continue as an operating organisation during these, we'll say, difficult times and challenging times. And I'll read it out just in case none of you have read it. And the following agreement by committee: in times of crisis, for example, a natural disaster, pandemic, the deadline for holding an AGM may be extended or emergency measures adopted for remote attendance, proxy voting and or adjournment, postponement or cancellation until such time as it's possible to reconvene. This we want to add because by the rules of our constitution, we have to hold an AGM within 16 months of the last one. And the way things are going, we don't know whether we would be able to hold a open public meeting in January this year, not this year, next year, or the year after. So this enables us to continue to operate in one form or another. So what I'm going to ask is that, get rid of that now. Can I have, if everybody's in agreement with that, can I have just a member of the group to put that forward for acceptance, and a seconder, please? You can do that just by putting your hand up or saying yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Garrett.
Yes.
Garrett is putting that forward. Have we got a seconder, please?
Yes.
Who was the seconder? Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay, I thought I recognised. Thanks, Jim. Right, now in the chat box, which is at the side of the screen, so long as you are a resident and or you work in Purfleet, just put yes and agree. Otherwise put yes and don't agree. If you could do that during the course of the meeting, and we will pick that up as we progress.
That is yes and work, or yes and live.
Yes, that's what I said, didn't I?
No, you said agree.
I said yes or agree.
No, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Don't get so picky, Trevor.
Oh, yeah,
Right. Right, moving on. Let me see. I've got to look there and see where I am now. Right, okay. Item 4 is our first speaker is Steve Lyons from Highways. Is Steve with us? No, he isn't. That's a spanner in the works.
No, Steve is here.
Is he?
Yes.
Steve?
He's not muted either.
All right. Steve?
I can see Steve.
Yep.
I can see Steve. Steve. Steve can't hear.
He can hear, but he can't talk to us.
Right. He's not. You're not mute. Oh, hang on.
Right.
Steve is muted, Trevor. Can you that's it. No, he's muted.
No, you're unmuted.
All right.
I think there's an audio issue there. I would suggest if Steve Lines disconnects and reconnects in, sometimes that helps.
Yeah. Did you get that, Steve? Right. Can we just give Steve a couple of minutes? See if we can get him back on, and we can keep on track. Yeah.
We can move on to the next speakers, and Steve will come in later.
Right, okay. We'll pick up on Steve later on. Right. Our next speaker is Chair of Purfleet Design Panel. Good evening all. Just in case you don't know me, my name's John. I'm also Chair of the Purfleet Centre Design Panel. And
Right, Steve has just joined us if you want to.
well, let Steve go back then. You know it. Yeah. Are you there, Steve?
Yes, it doesn't. He hasn't got a microphone showing, just a video camera. So I think we might continue to be having problems with that.
Right. Okay, in that case, we'll go back to Chair of the Design Panel then.
Yeah, you don't need to that.
Oh, I do.
It's not that cold, isn't it?
No, I know it isn't. Right. Right.
Can you hear me yet?
Oh,
Oh, hang on.
Steve.
Hey,
Yes, we can hear you, Steve.
hooray, at long last. Yeah, we got this far. I've not really got anything to say. I think I said it all last time.
Right. Talk to us about this 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, Steve.
Yeah, this seems to have caused a lot of controversy, and it seems to have upset a few people for some reason. It's as I think if you read my report last time, what we've tried to do, the government gave us £280,000 tried to spend on COVID improvements. It was so it opened up to allow, as COVID eased, it was to allow people to get out and try to be more healthy, to cycle and to walk more places rather than to just get in their cars or whatever. To be more sustainable travel as they got back into life, and also because buses were going to be a bit of an issue as well, which they have been. I don't think I've seen a full bus since departments. So the government gave us this money through something which is called the COVID-19 Active Travel Fund, and so we looked to doing some various schemes. I don't know if there's any councillors on tonight, but we looked to do some various schemes around the borough, and we started with one in particular in Aveley that would have been quite, it was fencing off half the road to allow cycling through the middle of Aveley town centre, and there was various bits and pieces like that. And we got a clear steer from our council, the councillors, that we were to not implement anything that would affect any existing parking or obstruct any vehicle flows. So any existing vehicle flows, traffic movement. This really left us with a conundrum as to which way to go. I mean, what can you do? The whole idea of this, and I live in Colchester, and what I've seen, well, I moved to Colchester 2 years ago, and what I've seen up here where I live, the council very quickly responded by putting temporary barriers out into the middle of the road to enable people to pass each other and to create cycle paths. This caused some traffic confusion, but that was kind of what it was all about. Because Thurrock were encouraged not to go down that path, we then had to think, well, what can we do? We looked to areas where footpaths were kind of narrow, and to try and get people to stations. They were the two kind of things that we were looking at. And so we've chosen 4 areas in this borough. There was East Tilbury, Stamford-le-Hope, West Road in South Ockenden, and London Road in Purfleet. And initially, all I was going to do along London Road, Purfleet, with regards, I mean, I spoke to John about it, and I think he sounded out the committee a little bit on how they felt, because I was putting the question out there was, how would people feel if we stopped vehicle flow across the level crossing? Because that was in the very early stages when there was still the possibility of restricting traffic flow. Obviously, John said that wouldn't get supported by the forum in any case, and then the councillor said, no, you can't really do anything that obstructs traffic. So it's, what else can we do? All right, so one of the big things to stopping people walking is feeling safe as they walk down the roads. Now, Purfleet in particular has got some very narrow stretches of road, footway next to the road, and vehicle speeds aren't particularly high. We've had this conversation before. I see you raise your eyebrows, Mrs. Rolls. You're the only one I can see in large, but they're not particularly high. I've had this conversation with John many times, that but they are certainly above 30 miles an hour, just above 30 miles an hour. Not high enough for police intervention and not high enough to justify any works, but they're certainly not down at 20 miles an hour. So we thought the biggest problem is 2 locations where residents park with 2 wheels on the footway, and that's down by Botany Terrace and down by Riverview Flats. So we thought my initial plan was to just reduce the speed limit in those areas. So it would have gone from where it does at the roundabout with Church Hollow. It would have gone past that road, past the entrance to Hollow Cottages. Then it would have gone past the Rower Park cars, and to encompass the corner, because it's a blind corner as people leave opposite the council's car park, Cornwell's car park. So it would have covered that area only. And the other area I was looking at was down by Riverview Flats, and it would have literally been the length of Riverview Flats, plus I think it might have been 50 metres either side. Turned out that there's a minimum length of 20-mile-an-hour limit. And so in the end, what we did was just join those 2 up because they didn't meet the minimum. So we just joined them up together, and that encompassed the station as well. And we thought that was quite a good idea. Now, you can't just, you can't just put a 20-mile-an-hour zone in, but police don't like to enforce it. So we need some kind of backup. So we've put down what a lot of people, I understand, are calling pimples through the area, but they are legal-sized speed cushions, apart from next to the parked cars. We couldn't fit full size in there. It would have caused problems. Now, people ask the question, well, why have you put cushions rather than full-width humps? Well, if you put full-width humps across the road, firstly, buses don't like them. Secondly, emergency vehicles don't like them. And if you've ever been in the back of an ambulance with a broken leg or any broken bones, you know that the slightest bump can cause you pain. So trying to get somebody through a series of full width road humps can cause problems. But the biggest problem is when vehicles go over them empty, large vehicles like buses or lorries, they make a terrific thumping sound as they go across. And we get a lot of complaints about vibration from full width humps. So in most cases, we try to avoid full width humps, particularly where there's residents or on main traffic routes. So we put in these cushions, and they're kind of a backup really for the waiting for the speed limit. And the other thing we've done in the area is we've moved the bus stop. I think that was done today. The one by the old bus turnaround, the footway was very narrow there. So we've moved the bus stop into an area where there's a recess in the hedge or fence line, so people can stand in there and wait for their bus, and people can pass by on the main road without any issues. I've had some positive feedback on that already, and that only happened today. So that part's actually looking quite good. The other thing that seems to be causing a hell of a lot of controversy is the fact that signs we put up got sprayed over. That's because firstly, they were sprayed over last week. That's because the scheme hadn't come into operation. Therefore, we couldn't legally have the signs displayed. And at the moment, we haven't got the repeaters up, so it wouldn't be legally enforceable. For that reason, we haven't taken well, as far as I know, our contractor hasn't taken the spray markings off yet. That will happen when everything's in place and it's ready to go. Like I say, that should have been last Friday, but having been to site yesterday, I expressed my frustration with the contractors. This wasn't in place and ready to go. Same as West Road in South Ockenden is due to start this Friday, I think. So that was the next one to go. The last thing that seems to have been causing some confusion is the wording COVID on the signs, COVID-19. That was kind of a work in progress type name. We called them COVID because it was a COVID. It was generated by the COVID works. We didn't really know what else to call it or how else to highlight it. We are now changing the name COVID to active travel, but then I don't suppose anybody will know what active travel means either. Maybe we should have put walking and cycling or something like that, but a lot of people don't seem to understand why slowing vehicles down is assisting walking and cycling either. So I think we were damned if we did and damned if we didn't. We just needed, what we did was followed what everybody else had done around the country with COVID-19 on red and white at the bottom of the signs. That's what everybody else around the country seemed to do to some degree or other, whether they were big signs or small signs. So we followed that. The scheme will be monitored. It was we put some tubes down before it went in. We put them down to see what the speeds were in recent times, just before it went in, and we will be putting them down a couple of times while it's in place, just to see if it's made any change over the period that it's in place for. We've put them in, it's supposed to be temporary works. We've put them in under an experimental traffic order for 1 year period. We've originally we were just going to do solar powered lights and some bolt-on cushions. That was the original plan. It's going down for a year, and there's a 6 months consultation from now to the end of June. If the scheme is well supported, the portfolio holder wanted us to have some kind of legacy scheme out of the monies that we got. We can't actually do anything other than something to encourage walking and cycling. The 20-mile-an-hour zones are something that has been requested several times in several areas. We've tried to kind of work that into it as well, and there is the possibility that if the scheme is well supported, we've received enough positive comments, then it could be made into a permanent feature. If it's not supported, or people don't like it, and we get complaints, objections to the process, it won't be complaints, objections, because it's an experimental traffic regulation order. Normally when a traffic regulation order, say for yellow lines or something goes in, or even for the PPA that you had, I think we had a 21-day consultation. An experimental order lets you put the thing in, and then it gives you a chance for people to see how it's going before they actually place their comments. So it's a 6-month period. If we get objections to it throughout that period, then we'll take it out at the end of the 12 months, and that'll be the end of that. So yeah, I think that covers everything. John will remind me if I've forgotten anything, because John's been very helpful and in assisting with any proposals I've had, and even as much as suggesting the bus stop relocation himself, which I totally agreed with and was a good idea, and has gone in.
So Steve, in the chat, we've got somebody by the name of Ian saying about slow children crossing on signs near the secondary school. Is it possible to have such a sign erected?
I think that's something we'd have to investigate, because I'm not sure if they're. I don't see why not. This is one of the things that I'll come back with an answer next time, rather than be caught on the hop. So that was one of the things I did ask from the forum. If you've got any questions, can you please table them at least a week beforehand, so I've got a chance to come back. I don't know whether that's been investigated. I wasn't involved with the school, so I don't know if that is something that has been investigated, or even if it's something we would do, since there's a signal control crossing at that location, and that kind of does the same thing. We don't normally put them. It's not a precedent. It's not a set thing that we would put outside a senior school, and that is a senior school rather than a primary school. But as I say, put that as a question for next time, and I'll ask the engineer that was dealing with the Section 106 works from the school to give me an answer to that question.
Thank you. And another question is a 30-mile-an-hour sign on the entry to Harrison's Wharf. Is this a mistake?
No, it isn't. Well, Harrison's Wharf is perhaps that was kind of, we have to have a sign. I'm not quite sure what it is in there, because that's private, isn't it, Harrison's Wharf? So maybe that's something we could look at, and that might be something that we might need to take down. All the side roads, we kind of did a blanket order that all the side roads, as you left the 20-mile-an-hour zone, had to have 30 or whatever the road was he was going into, and it was surrounded by, the whole area has been surrounded by 30s. So yeah, but yeah, no, I take your point on that one, and that might be something that we should look at to perhaps take down, because that would perhaps not seem appropriate, because it leads direct into private area. It's not public highway, is it, as you go into Harrison's Wharf? I think we put the signs up at the yeah, no, that one's a fair point. Yep, okay.
We've got 3 minutes. New roundabout in Cornwall House car park.
Right, the new roundabout I can tell you about. I can't tell you anything about Cornwall House car park. I've not been involved with that. I did ask a question for John this week. I asked the parking enforcement team, and I think they said it's going to be closing. They've been told it's going to be closing on the 21st of December. But that's all I know. Is that correct, John? I did send it on to you from parking enforcement, because they're the ones that actually go in the car park and take the fees. They're the ones that empty the machines. They're the ones that enforce the parking tickets. And I think I'm sure it was the 21st of December.
It was.
Yeah, thanks, John, for that confirmation. Yes, so it'll be closing to the public. We will then need to be monitoring the roads around the outside of the PPA, because those cars, there's not many of them, but they're going to go somewhere. So we'll be looking at that. As for the new roundabout, that's something that's been, we're talking about the one at the entrance to the ports down at the eastern end of London Road, Purfleet, just near Stonehouse roundabout. There's a new roundabout as part of the Section 106 works was required by the port for their new car deck, etc., and further other expansion. And we all know that they're in contravention of that, and they are using the car deck. That is a planning enforcement matter, not a highways development control or transport development question. That has been passed over to them, and they are dealing with that, I'm told. As for when it was supposed to start works, they were supposed to have started this April, and that helped them meet their planning permission, apparently, and they asked for a year's extension, and we gave them a 1-year extension to get the works done, so they need to be doing something again by this coming April. We watch this space and see what happens. They've not been easy to work with the port.
We've got a question, Chris.
Yeah, it's not a question, it's a point. With the senior school kids coming out with their bags and walking along to the station and the bus stops, the pavements are far too narrow for the kids to be able to walk along the roads, pavements. So we do need the reduced speeds. When people turn around and say, no, it's all silly, it is needed.
And exactly, I agree with you completely. Thank you for that comment, and thank you for that support. Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Thank you.
So,
We in the chat, it's, let me just check this one. Sorry about this. To promote active travel, was a school street ever considered for Harris Academy, as parking on Beacon Hill is getting dangerous for pedestrians?
Oh,
The
said that?
diagram 545 can be installed on approach to the secondary school on yellow backing with the wording school on it.
it can, but I don't know if we do in Thurrock. I think that, again, that whole thing would be something that diagram 545 is a red triangle with a school. There's 2 little children crossing the road. Again, anything to do with that school. I wasn't involved with that that development or the Section 106 or any of the requirements from that school, or I wasn't involved with the planning application at all. I do get involved with planning applications, but I wasn't involved with that one. Again, any questions on that, I will take back to a colleague who has been dealing with that, and I will get you comments and answers the next time.
Thank you.
Right, I think time is of the essence this evening, so thanks very much, Steve. Unless anyone's got a very quick question, I see we've got a couple here in the chat.
I've got a question, John.
Somebody's got a question.
Yeah, go on. Who's got a question?
Ian Alcock.
Oh, Ian Alcott. No, it's not. It's Sarah. Don't speak.
No, Sarah's on as well, but just a quick question. We've had issues with the port again, holding back the traffic on London Road. It's becoming
this is something you'll have to tabulate so I can look into external to the meeting. I haven't been involved with any of that kind of thing, and I'd be on the hoof answering a question that I don't know the answer to.
Is that something you can take forward and ask those that do know? Because this is an ongoing...
Absolutely. This is exactly the sort of thing that I need. I need these questions beforehand, so I'm not sitting going, I think, it's something I need to consult with colleagues so I get an actual answer to whatever's been happening. And this is new to me, what you're telling me.
Yeah, okay. That's Steve.
Yeah, people were asked to supply questions before the meeting, so comment taken on board.
Thanks, Trevor.
We've asked several times as it goes.
Mm.
I think a lot of it is that people only think of it when we're chatting.
Well, on that case, that's great. Everybody think of something now, write it down, and I'll get you an answer for next time.
Yeah, you'll get an invite to the next meeting, matey. Don't you fret.
Yeah. No, and to be serious, I will take forward any questions you have, even if they're not for me. I can pass them on to a different team.
Yeah.
We're hoping to, I think, as John knows, to get highways maintenance involved. We're not sure we'll be able to get anybody from planning. Maybe we'll be able to get someone from planning. It's unlikely we'll get anybody from planning enforcement to be involved, but we do sometimes struggle to get an answer from planning enforcement. Hence why I don't know what's happening with regards to the multi-storey car park inside the port area, even though I know what's happening here.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for your input there. So what I would say to everybody is, if you've got any questions, please send them to me so I can forward them to Steve for the next meeting. And thanks for joining us, Stephen.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
As always.
Cheers.
Right. Moving forward, back to the chair of Purfleet Design Panel.
I don't know if you can forward. God, dear, you're embarrassing.
Good evening, all. Thank you for inviting me, Chair. That's all right, mate. Some of you may know me, some of you don't. My name's John. It's the same as the guy who kicked off the meeting. The panel came together in the early plans of the regeneration of Purfleet. The aim is for a meaningful discussion between PCRL and the community. We have over the early years taken part in many workshops that include members of the community to try and guide this project to a development that meets the needs of the existing community and the new families that we hope to come and live here. It's been a long road. How long is it, Garrett? It's a long, long time.
I think we first met back in 2013, John.
There you go. So it's a long time. And we've had lots of discussions. We've had workshops with businesses, with geriatrics and the youngsters, and with any old Tom, Dick and Harry that wanted to come along and have their 2 bobs worth and join in and share their visions. It is a shame to a certain extent that the guy who guided those visions is no longer with us. But anyway, those visions are the same. They haven't changed. The plans we see today have changed a tad. But generally speaking, they're the same, and it's all about building what used to be called a sustainable community. And now, for Gail's benefit, it's what's called place. And I like to say it's a place where people want to be, where people will look round and say, that was my idea. I wrote that down. So that people get a bit of pride in what we're trying to build. And we are just a small bit in a massive project, which will be explained in a few minutes. But what we really need is for more people to come on board. Not so that we can all join in together, because it won't work, it'll be too big. But if you'd like to be more involved and to have your say, and if you've got a vision that you'd like to share, and as you look at the slides this evening, you may see things that you don't like, then this is an opportunity to come on board and help us, help the developers build something that is a place where people want to be, want to live, grow up and work, which is all what makes a sustainable community. And we're doing this. We've got a kilometre, roughly, of riverfront that we're going to regenerate. But in amongst that, we've got a scheme called the Thames Estuary Project, which I know Ken will enlighten you on a little bit, although it doesn't directly impact on us. I feel certain it will indirectly in the years to come. So, as I said, if you would like to become more involved and you want to join in and mince over plans, most of it at the minute will be via this sort of scheme, but hopefully at some time we'll be able to sit around the table and draw over plans and decide what we like and what we don't like. Then please email me, and I think Trevor's got the 2 emails, which we will put up. One is the Chair app, which most of you will know. The other one is purfleet-on-Thames@gmail.com. And just ask to sign up and join in being able to have your say. And I think I've said enough. And on that note, I'll hand you over to Ken Dieter, Director of PCRL, the man with the vision. Ken, the floor is yours.
Thank you, John, as ever. It's always a joy to be with you. We were allocated 5 minutes. I think I've got 30 seconds left, so I'll have to be quick. But no, actually, what you were saying, John, is absolutely real. Working in collaboration, working together and getting the engagement with the community is right at the centre of what you want to do. Following on from us, we've got a star-studded cast. We've got Jason Robinson, Duncan Innes talking about progress to date. And then you'll be talking about the community design panel, which is so important. And then we'll keep talking. It sounds a dull topic, design codes. It's not. Lloyd Spencer and Gail Mayhew will be talking about that. And then we're going to talk about green infrastructure with Leighton Pace, which I think is one of the really fascinating aspects of how we green what we're achieving. This is really important. And then finally, to keep you at the table, Laura Davis is going to talk about our competition. Next, please. So John and I are leading on this today. As I've just outlined, there's a full panel behind us willing to present, and then afterwards question and answer. Next, please. So I wanted to talk very briefly, John, and forgive me for a moment, because we've always focused on Purfleet-on-Thames. That's been our focus. But I just want to broaden things out slightly to talk about the Thames Estuary. And actually, just to say that I'm now on the Thames Estuary Growth Board, appointed by government. It's a government body that's been put together to attract £1.5 billion worth of investment into the Thames Estuary, to create jobs, create improved transport and improved skills. Next, please. So the area that's covered is actually that marked orange or brown, whichever way you look at it. And smack right in the middle of it, well, certainly the main estuary part, is Purfleet-on-Thames. That's really important. And the agenda for Purfleet-on-Thames, as I said, is already the #1 growth area for the UK. So it means that there's a lot of focus from government. So I'm actually the board lead for the board on inward investment. So we're already engaging with Department of International Trade, HCLG, all the various government ministries, and also the trade commissioners around the world to attract investment into this area. And that's really important. And actually the headlines for what the growth board is, we're backing sustainable developments. So last week there was a half day on hydrogen, how hydrogen is going to be used increasingly in the future to create a net zero environment. We're looking at spearheading decarbonisation technologies in the area, bring new industries in, create jobs, and also about improving and maintaining the Thames Estuary's beautiful green spaces and the beautiful blue spaces in between. Next, please. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that actually Purfleet-in-Thames, whilst it's massively important, it's a key component in actually the delivery of the Thames Estuary growth, and that the board is seeking people to support the growth of the Thames Estuary generally. And I think that's something that we should both support and also be very proud of, because actually the fact that this is getting such good government support is a tribute to the work that you, John, and your colleagues on the panel are undertaking. So thank you very much. So I'll now move on to the next, please. That's it. Progress to date. I'll pass over to Jason Robinson, Duncan Innes, who will update you on the massive amount that has been undertaken, and will be undertaken. Jason.
Okay, thanks, Ken, and hello, everyone. I will kick off this part of the presentation. I'll be ably assisted by Duncan, and we can just go to the first slide. Mindful that some on the call maybe experiencing the PCRL development regeneration proposal for the first time, we thought we'd spend just a little moment to explain who PCRL is. PCRL stands for Purfleet Regeneration Centre Ltd, which is the development partner of Thurrock Council. And we were procured, we are a joint venture ourselves, and we were procured under an open OJU procurement process many years ago. And we are effectively the development partner of Thurrock to enable the bringing forward of all of the homes, the jobs, and the various other elements of the scheme, which I'll quickly address in a minute. So we as PCRL ourselves are a joint venture. I work as part of Ken's team in Urban Catalyst. We are the development managers, bringing forward and managing the overall delivery of the entire scheme. And we're very ably assisted by our partners, Swan New Living, and you'll be hearing from Duncan Innes, who's the project director for Swan. Swan are responsible for some of the project management, construction management of the project, but they're also a joint venture element of PCRL. So we've also got Kelpray, who are a large contractor, and others within the joint venture. So we have the ability not only to manage the overall regeneration project and procurement of work, but also to deliver it in terms of the Kelpray work going forward. Next slide, please. Okay, so very quickly, as John mentioned, we've been talking about this project and bringing it into gestation since about 7 years. But in terms of how we got to where we are, we've very much gone through an off-site process, which is principally resolved around getting the legal and financial and joint venture structuring pieces together to enable the project to be brought forward. At the same time, our partners Thurrock have been assembling the sites, which means basically buying or getting options to buy the land in which they can then hand over to PCRL to build. But very importantly, we've been getting the planning approval, and you would have heard that the outline planning consent was awarded in 2019, last year. And since then, we've been working very hard at getting various conditions discharged, ready for the on-site construction, which will be starting at the end of this year, and we'll talk through. So this timeline you can see on the Our Purfleet website. We've just replicated it here. It's a bit of how do we get to where we are, but a lot of it is off-site, as you will well know. But it basically sets the ground for us to bring forward reserve matters, which are the construction approvals for us to get going on site. Next slide, please. Similarly, we've been doing some work on site, which is, you will have seen the notice boards going up. You will have seen the community hoardings going up. There's a great photo of John with our chairman, Sir Tim Lawrence, and the member for Regeneration there at the launch of the hoardings. But similarly, this year, somewhat impacted by COVID, unfortunately, but we've been working with Connecticut and the rest of the borough in bringing forward the T100 walk, which is fantastic. And that's an element alongside the community design panel. That's an element of the level of grassroots community engagement and support and interface that we really enjoy and we really want to make sure continues, and hence why the call is going out for additional members for the community panel, design panel. Similarly, a lot of the funding and the legal agreements have been in process, and we're right at the end, hopefully, of a very successful process at the moment where the development agreement, which is the overriding governance and legal document between ourselves and Thurrock, and an element of housing infrastructure funding, which is grant from central government. We'll have that awarded to Thurrock, who can then allow early infrastructure to be developed on the site, which will really, really kickstart the project through the next few years. Next slide, please. So very quickly, the master plan, and this is an illustrative master plan, which is an element of, it's one drawing which represents a whole series of detail behind it. But the key elements, which, as John mentioned, have been in process from the very early days. So it's worthwhile just remembering that PCRL was awarded the scheme initially on the back of a design competition. And that design competition had a couple of key elements in it. And the main one was actually the closure of the dangerous level crossing and its replacement with a new bridge, vehicular and pedestrian bridge, which would in itself enable the crossing to be closed, with new train stations, new facilities. But with that new civil infrastructure comes a new town centre. And in that town centre, there's commercial uses, there's community uses, there's non-residential uses to really give a new heart to Purfleet-on-Thames and to enable the rest of the development to wrap it and to envelope it with all sorts of other uses and indeed lots of houses as well. So you can see that in number 1, that's the new town centre and the new railway station building. There'll be a new high road that connects that town centre to the riverfront. And you'll see in our landscape proposals that Leighton will present later, the riverfront and opening and making public access all the length of the riverfront is absolutely fundamental. There's new primary schools to be, which is number 4, to support the secondary school. And actually in our design competition early days, the secondary school was part of a residential offer. And when the EFA and Thurrock came to us and said, we'd like to actually turn that area into a secondary school, we thought we'd love to support that. What a great idea. And it really suits our social infrastructure, our non-residential infrastructure offer. So we're really happy that Harris is there, and the primary school will also be a Harris primary. The number 5 is the new media, film and television studios. A key plank in the Thames corridor, Thames production corridor that Ken was referring to, and we're very, very excited by bringing that forward in the same timeline as the town centre and the housing. And then you've got, of course, the nearly 3,000 new homes, which will come forward with all of that other infrastructure and all of those other uses. They are a key plank to bringing forward new families and bringing forward the new place. So next slide, please. So those principles, if we sort of take a step back, they really are to deliver the council's vision for Purfleet-on-Thames about bringing forward housing, about opening up the waterfront and creating a new international creative hub, but also driving the economic growth through the new town centre, through the non-residential uses. And also, as I was mentioning on the housing infrastructure side, on the funding side, bringing forward those key placemaking elements as early as we possibly can in the scheme, so that everything that follows it benefits from things like the railway station, London Road the current London Road being closed and replaced by a new one, a much safer pedestrian and cycling and non-vehicular neighbourhood, and bringing forward all of those elements like schools and new medical facilities and new commercial uses that will support the new families and houses that come through, as well as supporting, obviously, the existing population. And at the very heart of all of that has been community engagement, which started all those years ago, and we are absolutely delighted that it's continued in no small way by the strength of its leadership and also by the continued interface that we have in forums just like this, and taking on board those comments and bringing them into the scheme so that we know that what we're delivering is actually fulfilling the needs of the local residents and the broader community. Next slide.
If I could just interrupt here, Councillor Holloway has raised her hand, so I'm not sure she wanted to raise a question just at this point.
Sure.
Yes, if that's okay. It was just, I noticed in the presentation, and I hope I'm not jumping too far ahead, but that there isn't anything about where the health centre is going to be, which obviously is an integral part of the health strategy with the integrated medical centre there in Purfleet. So why is that not on the plans, the detailed plans?
Thanks, Councillor. Next slide, please. It is on the next slide. Okay, there we go. So if you see
I'm too early.
See the ambulance cross there? The ambulance cross in the middle.
I do.
I'm not sure if someone who can control. So the middle building, basically where the ambulance cross is, it points to a very central building. And right in the heart of our town centre, and the IMC, so the new medical facility, will be on the ground and first floor of that building, right in the heart of the town centre.
Wonderful. Phew.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a key plank for us. So, and
Okay, thanks.
it's a great call because, looking at this next slide, it's a real mix of diversity that we're bringing to the scheme. And not only the primary, and I'm not talking, just putting aside the residential, we've got primary schools to support the secondary. We've got the medical centre, part of the town centre coming forward. We've got community uses, we've got retail uses, we've got the hopefully the new university or higher and further education facility. You can see that just below where the IMC building is, and then all along the riverfront we've got these open, public accessible commercial and retail uses, so that the scheme by its very nature has the hub of the town centre going south along the high street, which will have newsagents and cafes, down to the open riverfront, and then back up through the north, what we'd say are the quieter residential neighbourhoods, where they are supported by the primary school and their own local corner shops and retail uses. So healthy living, supported by the IMC, but also by the landscape proposals you'll see in a minute, is a key fundamental part of our sustainable delivery. And of course, you've got the international growth, the growth hub created by the film and television studios, and all of the supporting uses that will come with that. So next slide, please. And as John said, placemaking is the new sustainable development. And, indeed, sustainable development and placemaking are anathema to many schemes, but absolutely for us, they are at the heart of regeneration, and they are very, very important in the early days so that you get that initial vibrancy that the rest of the scheme can then leverage and grow off. And here's just some images around the various elements of the scheme. Just walking around the scheme, you've got the town centre called Purfleet Town. It has an open plaza with residential above it, with the commercial uses at the ground floors. And then as you walk around you look around the clockwise nature of those images, some of the residential parts of the scheme, much quieter, much lower density. You've got the film and television uses, and then you've got the opening up of the riverfront. And we're so delighted to have supported John and Trevor with Purfleet-on-Thames as the name. It's an absolute reversion back to history, but also a forward look and the rebirth of Purfleet as a fantastic place. So next slide, please. I'll actually introduce Duncan, Project Director from Swan, to talk through our first 61 homes that are soon to be delivered.
Thanks, Jason. Good evening, everybody. Just got a couple of slides just to brief you on where the first very initial phase of residential work is commencing. So as you can see, 61 homes, of which we're proposing 34 are shared ownership. And shared ownership means that people are able to buy as little as 25% of the value of the house and then rent the rest. So it's a way of making homes more accessible. Swan Housing Association is, of course, a housing association and very much geared to providing affordable homes. So we're hoping that as we go through the development, we'll have roughly 30% plus would be affordable in one way or another. But the first phase of 61 homes are all houses, mainly 3-bedroom. There's 8 4-bedroom homes and about 15 or so, 16 2-bedroom homes, with the rest being 3-bedroom. And as you can see on the slide there, very green space. If we go to the next slide, just so the road to the bottom of that is London Road, and the road you can just see to the left of it is Church Hollow, and the grey buildings at the top, that's the Caspian Way development, for those who are familiar with that part of the world. So the station is just off slide going bottom right, as it were. So that's the location, and the yellow colour is the area with the shared ownership homes. So we're going to start building from the Church Hollow end and go towards the station. All those homes that are coloured orange and green are 3 and 4 bedroom homes. They'll all be available for shared ownership, and there's a couple of play areas in there, open space, parkland, and then the area highlighted blue, that's 2 and 3 bedroom homes. They're the private homes for sale. We've split it that way that it's not built in, it is built in 2 phases, but they overlap. So we don't going to start and finish one phase before we start the other one. They will very much overlap, but you know, wanted to highlight the fact that the open space is coming forward as part of the first phase of building. So I was going to leave it there. Happy to take questions later on when allocated, but that was just a brief introduction to the initial phase of house building. Thanks.
Thanks.
Could we just have one question to do with the rent? Somebody has asked, sorry, just bear with me, just residential property rent, do you anticipate a massive increase?
Well, it depends. If talking about the rental element of a shared ownership home, that is controlled, so there wouldn't be massive increases. It doesn't work that way. There may very well be private rented properties on part of the development coming forward. You know, we're too early to speculate about pricing, and I'm not sure whether the question is sort of massive increase from where we are now or over time. The private rented will run with the market and accordingly. But as I say, the rental element of shared ownership is controlled.
Yeah. And again, somebody was just asking to check how many 4 bedrooms there were.
Well, just on that first phase of 61 homes, there are 8 4-bedroom homes, but there are more 4-bedroom homes elsewhere in the development.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So in terms of, I was talking earlier about the planning approval and the discharge of its various conditions, and it sounds very technical, but it's actually critically important for the scheme that after the outline consent, there's a whole process of what we call site-wide conditions that need to be discharged, and in those conditions include things like the design codes, which we're going to hear more about from Gail and Lloyd in a minute. But to develop up the design codes and to develop up these site-wide strategies, which are very much related around design and quality design outcomes, the engagement and the placemaking process that we're trying to build around the scheme to develop what we've already brought forward in conjunction with John and the design panel is having placemaking and the vision of the scheme at the very heart. So this drawing tries to sort of identify all the various stakeholders and the various engagements that PCRL has had to take on board and will continue to take on board for the scheme. Right at the heart of it, in big blue, is the placemaking brief and the vision. And then you've got what we see as a tripartite agreement between ourselves, Thurrock as a council, and the residents, yourselves, and the community design panel, where those 3 planks are responsible for delivering the key outcomes of the scheme. Then you've got the green, the yellow, which are there are only a few of the various consultees and stakeholders that we engage with in the process. They include Thames Clipper, so to try and bring a jetty to one of the jetties going forward. Network Rail, obviously a key element of closing the railway crossing, and we're delivering 2 new stations, one in interim form to allow us to demolish the existing and then to ultimately bring a brand new new station on top of the car park, which sits within our town square. Buses, will be extending the bus service through the scheme. Homes England, obviously a key plank. And then you can read it for yourself, Sport England, RSPB, and the various other boroughs that are impacted by the development. And then on the outer rims, you've got the various agencies and design elements, whether they be the historical elements that Trevor's been so strong in bringing us and influencing the scheme with, the Royal Opera House, so influential in the decision to and the ongoing input of the creative sector, the creative quarter with the film and television studio, and EA, who've had quite a big impact on the scheme already in terms of the allocation of space for a potential future barrier sometime post 2050. Beyond that, in the blue, we've got all the various elements of what we call work streams, whether they be design and state management and communications and marketing. So these are the, you can sort of see in bubble form, the elements of engagement, and they together at their very hub, they form placemaking and ensure through the design panel and the interfaces with the residents and with John and the team, they make sure that we're actually not just teleporting or satelliting in what we think are the key elements and what the key outcome aspirations of the locals and the surrounding communities, but making sure that those decisions and those directives are actually embedded on day one.
Thank you. Jason, I have had a few more questions come in, so if we could do those fairly quickly, because obviously time is sort of getting on. We've got a question about, is there going to be adequate parking for the new homes?
Yeah, so in terms of adequacy, we're working on the basis of one-to-one car parking across the scheme. So that's going to be, but that will be blended. So the philosophy of parking for the scheme is not to have all of our parking, for example, right next to the town centre, which is well served by a new train station and a bus station and potentially Thames Clipper and so forth, but to make sure that each element of the scheme comes forward with its own parking regime that's fit for where it sits in the scheme. So the current working philosophy, which we're working through with council, is that the elements of the scheme that have a higher need for parking will have that parking provided. The elements of the scheme that are right on public transport will have a lower element of parking.
Thank you. And there's a couple of questions about what type of work is entailed within site clearance and remediation, and when can we expect to see contractors on site if they're not there already?
Okay, so that is the first part of that will be for 1A, and we're looking at having site clearance, which is tree removals and access provisions and things like archaeological studies, which we'll need to do, having that on site at the end of this year. The real start of remediation, which is surface remediation, where land is, you get the diggers on site and you're moving lots of muck around and making sure that any remediation works in terms of decontamination are taken, happen on site. That will start at the beginning of next year after the site clearance.
Jason, can I just jump in there? Just to clarify, we can't go on site till the site is vacant and we can turn the power off and the water off and everything else. And that won't be till the 21st of December. So it may very well be that the only thing that happens this side of Christmas is that our contractors go in, put the new fencing up and make the site secure. And then very early in the new year, we kick off the clearance and archaeological work, and then that leads into remediation, as Jason says. So just to correct that, if we can get on site earlier and get some work done this side of Christmas, we will, but it is perfectly possible that we won't be able to.
We're working as hard as we can to get on. Okay, next slide, please. And so how does that all come together in terms of that community engagement and the various placemaking pieces? This is just a little process map that shows from the left hand to the right hand how the various aspirational and technical elements of the scheme getting captured into documentation, which we submit to and have approved by Thurrock, and then it works its way through into the reserve matters, which are effectively the smaller chunks of housing and non-housing building approvals. So that is a little process map of how the big ideas get translated into formal building approvals and then ultimately constructed on site. And Lloyd and Gail are going to pick up in the next round, after John's had a bit of a chat about the community design panel, how that process is going. So next slide, please. Over to you, John, on some of the CDP work.
Oh, it's me. Okay. I didn't know I was happening to have a chat.
It's all about the design panel.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I thought I spoke about the design panel, but I'll speak about it again. I'm looking at some members of our design panel. It would be good to have some more. As I said previously, we've been going for a long time and people come and people go. It's good to have people come and stay. We appreciate that not everybody can come to every meeting, but because we broaden our horizons with our own Zoom account, it's going to enable us to chat more openly between ourselves without having to get closer than possibly quarter of a mile, which is good, generally speaking, except it puts us further away from the boozer, which isn't good. But it's all about, if this is moistening people's interest to want to be involved, then I can't reiterate strong enough that we need you to come on board. We need people with ideas and views, and we don't shout anybody down. Everybody's allowed to have their own say, and basically the rules are the same as with an open meeting or with belonging to the forum. It's all a matter of bringing the community together to build something that is going to last our lifetime and beyond. So that's what it's all about. You know, we've got the opportunity to be involved. We've got the opportunity to have meaningful discussions and to just chat. And there's nothing better than being able to chat about things. And if you see me on the right holding up a little bit of red, I'm going to call it Perspex, because that's what it was. That was our Brownfield Briefing Award. The only unfortunate bit was that the forum and the design panel wasn't involved. But I got hold of it before Jason did, or Rebecca, and it's a culmination of us all working together. And I know it's only an award, but it shows that it's been recognised across the board by Brownfield Briefing that by being involved, by joining up, you can make a difference. So that is my message to everybody that's listening tonight. And I don't know how many people there are outside of the existing organisation, but I hope you take interest in this and help us move forward, because people like Trevor and myself, and I'm not going to ring the death knell, but we're not getting any younger. And we need people to be in place to be able to take this project with the developers forward to fruition. So please get in touch. Please show us your interest and support and join in. Thank you.
Thank you. We are running a little bit late at this point, so I hate to say this, but could we please just be aware of the time with presenting the rest of this?
We've got till 9:30, Claire.
Right. Okay.
It's not 9 o'clock finish. It was 9:30 because I built in this buffer because we've still got a lot to do.
Right.
Okay, Claire, should I take this on now on the design codes? And just to say, I will be really quick actually. So the design code, you can see from Jason's structure document where it all fits in. So it's taking all the ideas that sit in the placemaking manual and the brief that we pulled together with yourselves, and beginning to try to turn those into sort of diagrammatic formats so that this design code will sit alongside the master plan and be a bit like an operating manual for the project as it sort of works through. So the way it's kind of envisaged is that it will be issued to new designers getting on board with different elements of the scheme, with new developers coming into sort of discrete elements of it. So, you know, for example, primary school coming along it should influence aspects like that. But what it's doing will be to sort of boil down the kind of key aspects of how we want different elements of the design to work, so that they're coordinated at one level and have some sort of cohesion to them, to make it into a sort of place that feels like it's actually, you know, sort of it's joined together and it's coordinated. I don't know if you notice, like I do, I mean, an awful lot of developments, you sort of look at them and they don't really have a sense of place. They're an assembly of buildings, but without that sort of sense that makes it feel like a real place with real streets and with real character to it. So I don't know if that's a good way to describe what this is attempting to do, but Lloyd's on the call as well. And as the architect who's been charged with pulling this together, he's just going to take you through some of his thinking process and how the design code's emerging. And then I'll come back to how you can get involved with that.
Thank you, Gail. Well, in short, really, that sort of Gail summed it up, and I think actually all the discussions everybody's been having tonight sums it up. And what does the design code do? It basically forms a document that assists PCRL and everybody involved and all parties concerned to provide a kind of set of rules, as it were, as to how we're going to generate the place, and so those codes and that kind of coding will then set another set of kind of layer of parameters on top of all the outline consent and the revised master plan and all those elements that we've gained consent for. It will add another layering on top of that to say, within those parameters, which were kind of general blob drawings that stated kind of land use and building heights and what the kind of buildings would be in certain areas and how the streets would be formed, it adds another layer of detail to that, which sort of talks about the vision for what Purfleet is as a place. So it deals with character, and in dealing with character, it will talk about building materials and finishes. It will talk about the housing typologies and the type of, and how you would, if you were looking for, if another developer was to come along and take a plot, and he wanted to put an apartment building on a piece of plot or a house on a plot, you know, what would be the constituent kind of rules that we would think are important about designing that house or that apartment building in Purfleet. And that really then all comes together with the landscaping works that Leighton's looking at, and the sustainable elements of the master plan and what the community is looking for. And really in certain terms, it's basically a document that sets all that out for you. So we're in the process of writing that up at the moment, and we'll hopefully, once processes have been completed with section 73 being granted, we'll be looking to submit that code shortly.
That's great. Thanks very much, Lloyd. So just to come back to how you can get involved in the process, I really hope some more people, you know, do feel they'd like to come in and join these design discussions. Our time frame is working quite quickly on the design code. It's got to be submitted by the end, sort of late December to the council. So there's an opportunity, sort of early December time, for us to come back to work with people on the design panel to talk through the detailed aspects of the code and to get your engagement into that. So if anybody's sort of motivated after this call, John's the point of contact, but we'd really welcome any more involvement. It's really important, as John was saying, we need to reflect all the different members of the community in these design processes, because otherwise it can, without meaning to, it can lead to a situation where you've got quite a single view beginning to emerge, people of a certain age or a certain perspective. And the more people with different perspectives we can bring into this, the more robust the actual scheme will be, because then we can anticipate all the different community needs. So we really hope you'll feel, you would want to get involved in this. So we'll hand over to Leighton at this stage to talk through the green infrastructure and the landscape.
Great, thank you, Gail. Hi everyone, I'm Leighton Pace, landscape architect with Exterior Architecture, and I think it's important just to outline what I will be talking about today. Jason seems to think, oh, we're talking about everything, but then he was a landscape architect once. As part of the outline planning application, we've been asked to discharge a condition around green infrastructure strategy. And as Ken said before, green infrastructure, so the green elements, habitat, and various types of planting are very, very important to us at Purfleet, and you'll see in the presentation why. We've, as Lloyd said before, this whole process is about layering our work with that of community, with that of infrastructure, with that of buildings, to make a place. And I think it's really important to remember that everybody that's putting into this process is combining their work to try and make something incredibly special. And I think we've got a really great opportunity to do it. And your involvement and your feedback are really important to us. And there will be great opportunities to be involved. So we might actually do something which could be really positive around ecology in the future. Next slide, please. So the first slide sets the context of where we are. So we've got Raynham Marshes, and we've also got the Dartford Marshes. These are both sites of special scientific interest, which means they're incredibly cool, biologically, ecologically, but also within our site where number 10 is, we actually have something which is really special. So we have a triple SI, which is based on the chalk cliffs. And this is quite rare. There's a wide range of different types of habitat that we have in the vicinity of the site. And I think this diversity is really important. So we've got everything from species-rich chalk grassland, we've got ancient forest, we've got the tidal edge along the water, and we've got some really wonderful, unmanaged, flower-rich tall herbage that you're probably all aware is down near the edge of the Thames, which has great ecological value. Next slide, please. So understanding what we have on site is incredibly important. So what we've done is we characterize these into a number of different types of habitat. So these are the existing habitat areas. It's not particularly diverse really, but there are some really great ones. So obviously the riverbed that runs right along our whole kilometre stretch is incredibly important. But then also we have a whole lot of open mosaic habitat, which is a certain type of habitat which is partially exposed and partly planted. It's excellent for amphibians, it's great for bees, it's wonderful for insects. And then we have a range of other ones from grasses to woodlands and ancient woodlands, which are outside of our site. So that sets the context of where we are. We've been working with RSPB and BugLife in terms of developing our strategy. And you can see BugLife's beeline network diagram, which shows Purfleet. There's quite a significant area for bee movement. They're about to publish a national one, so we're going to link our development into the national beeline strategy so we can be connected through beelines all over the country, which would be a great thing. Next slide, please. So this is looking at the chalk pits triple SI. So you can see the cliffs in the back. Even though people may not think these are particularly, nice, they actually have incredible value in terms of both ecology and geology as well. So they're a real asset in the site, and something we just need to note that actually what we have in the site is particularly special. Lovely. Next slide, please. So what we've done is we've attempted to take the roads, take the buildings, take what we know about what's happening on the outside of the site, and try and make something called a green infrastructure strategy that looks to link the different types of habitat and green assets within the site out to the wider environment. So things I can just show you on this are the dashed green line at the top. So this is a big link for us because this is the link back to Raynham Marshes up through Tank Lane. The area that Jason alluded to along the front of the Thames is very important. So this is a primary green space and a primary green corridor that birds and a whole wide range of different types of fauna or animals will move up and down. In the southeast of the site, we're proposing a very large ecological park. This is really important because as we develop the site, all those little creepy critters and stuff, they all need somewhere to go. And actually, the idea about a site like this is actually that can be the receptor site for a lot of the existing ecology on site that we will be adapting or moving as well. One of the main gestures in the green infrastructure strategy is the Greenway, which runs from southeast right through the middle, right through the centre of our site, right through the main public spaces and up through to the north. And then within the blocks themselves, you can see there's a turquoise colour. So these are residence gardens. They can be allotments. They can be kitchen gardens, etc. But they all play a very important role, as everybody's front and back garden does, in making a connected green infrastructure. Thank you. Next slide. So aligned with that, what we get in terms of different types of habitat. So what we've wanted to do is make sure that we had no net loss of habitat over the site from when we did the master plan. We're being really successful at finding places and spaces and nooks and crannies that we can make meaningful ecology into. So you can see that this diagram, which is pretty colourful, looks at a range of what those things are. So mixed deciduous woodlands are in the dark green. So we think there's good areas we can bring in some tree and canopy cover, which is really important. The light green is the open mosaic habitat. So a lot of that goes down into the paper mill park, but we wanted to make sure that ecology was there. It was all through the site. It's not just in one big area. It's actually spread around. So it's part of your everyday life and your existence. So a big range of things, from rain gardens and wetlands and woodlands, right down to reed beds on the water edge, and then gardens inside what could be blocks or roofs as well, which are very important asset in terms of our green infrastructure strategy. So we've been developing these with RSPB and BugLife, trying to see if we can make sure that we're getting the story right, that we're putting the right type of ecology in the right type of place. And we seem to be singing from the same hymn sheet at the moment. So that in essence is the green infrastructure strategy. Next slide, please. And what goes along with that is a number of initiatives. So if we're going to have habitat, we need to have places for birds, bugs, bats, and the likes of to all hide. So whether they're bat boxes within brick walls, whether they're brown roofs which can be open, so things like black redstarts will want to come and nest there, or whether it's a sand martin cliff where sand martins can come in and out of tiny little holes made in a man-made structure. Right through the site, there'll be a number of ecological interventions where we can find places that we can live in Purfleet with, and the natural world can live with us there as well. So we think it's a really great strategy. We think it's really good. I think there's excellent opportunities for everybody to get involved in promoting and helping and supporting ecology within Purfleet. And if you go to the last slide, I think it's important to note we've got a really excellent opportunity to make what could be a really green and a really beautiful, but also a very natural and very sustainable landscape to support all the other functions that we have in this master plan. Thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm back. I will very quickly just run through the next steps. Thanks. So this year's been a big year for the scheme, and next year will be equally as big. So we've obviously got the 1A element under construction as we talk through the planning discharge process, where we're looking to have as much involvement from yourselves as possible. And we're getting ready through the design process for the very early parts of the scheme, which, as I said before, are the primary school, the IMC, and the town centre with additional homes. We'll also be continuing our negotiations on the other elements of the scheme. Beyond that, 2022, we'll have our first sales and first homes complete with the interim railway station to allow us to get on to start construction of the town centre itself. 23 is a big year with a lot of those early elements completing, and then, as you can see, it's a very long project, and we are in this for the long haul, and we're looking for long-standing, deep and meaningful relationships with the community, because the community is one of our greatest stakeholders, and we'd like to think that the community are going to come on the journey with us. So from that perspective, I'm mindful of time. There's one last slide for John. If John, you want to talk to this one? As to how to get involved.
All I can reiterate is, as I've said all the way through this, and I've been saying it right, is we just need more people to come on board and join the design panel. So the more people we've got, the more diverse the ideas will be, and hopefully the better the final project will be. So yeah, just please email me with your details and we can sign you up, and then keep you informed and hopefully keep you with us for the duration. Thank you, Jason.
Laura, I think we want to talk about the competition.
Yeah.
Yes, over to me. So a very, very quick 30 seconds from me just on a new competition that we're running. We want you guys to delve into your archives. We want you to do a Trevor on us and pull out the best photos from back in the day in Purfleet that you can find and tell us all about your memories of the town, what you love about it then, what you love about it now. We want to hear everything so we can create a bit of a mini montage and share what makes Purfleet a great place to live, work and socialise. We are running the competition till the 7th of December. And the best entry will win a £100 M&S voucher. And the way to enter is either via email to Garrett, or you can do it by the Our Purfleet Facebook page, or you can kindly post to Trevor, who will scan those in and upload them for us for the competition. So all the details are shared on the website, so that's ourpurfleet.com. So you can have a little look at that when you've got a bit more time. But that's all the time that I'm going to take from you guys today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. PCRL, are you still with us?
Yep, we're certainly here. So that's it from our side. Now is Q&A. So, I mean, I'm looking at the chat and we've already got some volunteers to join the panel, which is fantastic news. But we're here and we're available. If anyone has any questions about anything they've heard tonight or anything else to do with the scheme, please just put it in the chat and we'll happily answer any questions.
Claire, have we got any outstanding questions?
I don't believe so. I think we've
right. Okie dokie, then we'll crack on. A general update is, as you've probably seen, the Christmas lights are up. They aren't paid for yet, but they are up. And looking at switching them on sooner rather than later. It's been suggested that they go on the first week in December, but I would really, really like them to go on at the end of this week. Unless anyone's got any real objections to that. Is there any views on when we should switch them on? As soon as possible. No? Okay. Then moving from Alan's on to everybody. Hey, yes, thank you, Alan. Right, moving on. Broadband. Open reach of planning, fibre house to house in Purfleet-on-Thames within the next 2 years, which is great. But unfortunately, there's a pocket of properties that there is no planning for them to get fibre broadband of any description within the foreseeable future, and those areas are Beacon Hill, Riverview Flats, Southland and some of Sussex Terrace, as far as we can tell, and a bit of what we call the Lakes, for want of a better word, which is up at the top of Coniston. Oh, I forgot what it's called. What's it called? Yeah, the top of Coniston, which is opposite Esso, where there are no plans to increase coverage to them, mainly because we think, we're not absolutely sure, but we think the cabinet they're all linked to is so obsolete they don't want to spend any money upgrading it. But we are working on it with the council because we did the same for Watchwood Park, so hopefully we can do the same for the rest of the area. We're also looking at unlocking and getting a better understanding of the primary school and Harris Academy sports facilities, which are there. They're meant to be open to the community, but and they are meant to be affordable, but that doesn't seem to be how how it's working. People feel £25 an hour.
John, can I make a comment on that?
Yes, by all means.
So, School Letting Solutions was the company that was looking after the lettings at Harris down there. They have gone into administration, and now the school have taken back responsibility for the bookings. And I will say that they are probably the most affordable in the whole of Thurrock.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know, Ian. Thanks for that. Perhaps we can have a chat, and I'll get details off you. Hopefully by the end of the week.
Yep, no worries.
Lovely. Cheers, mate. Thanks for that. Right, moving on. Oh, this is a bit for Trevor, I think. The silhouettes. Trevor? He's gone. No,
Wakey.
How's that? Can you hear us now?
Yes.
That's good. Yeah, following on from the Battles Over events a couple of years ago, where a number of silhouettes we made, a number of silhouettes for display. The silhouettes that represent the 26 soldiers from Purfleet who died during the First World War went over by the Heritage Centre and have been outside more or less ever since. In May this year, vandals took it upon themselves to break the heads off them, drive over them and use them for target practice. This resulted in them getting into the news, local papers, it got into national press, Sky Television, Forces TV came down and did an interview. One of our committee, Lisa, who often walks past there, saw this and set up a funding, one of these crowdfunding groups to raise some money to make the repairs and get these reinstated. Things snowballed from there. We did really well with the funding. We've got £800 odd for that, and the result of it is, with input from one of our councillors, Kazar, we have got a company in Leeds, a stainless steel company. They picked up on this, and after a sort of bit of a chat of it, they are making 26 stainless steel or steel silhouettes that we are going to be putting next to the Heritage Centre on the wall. Planning application is now in. As you see it there, that's only a quick mock-up. They're going to be a bit smaller than that, the size that they were, 1150 high, about 4 foot high. So it'll be a smaller group than that. But there would just be a backdrop to the centre and a sort of fitting memorial to the soldiers. So that's in place. It's been a bit of a saga with the old planning and everything, but that's now underway, and after checking it up today, there's no objections anywhere along the line, so that should go through. Once that happens, they'll be at the back of the car park and will become, sort of part of the centre's, part of the centre. So things will carry on from there. There'll be an unveiling, and I dare say there'll be a bit of press activity at the time. So yeah, that's what's happening with those.
Thanks, Trev. Moving on, Ali. Is Ali still with us? No answer. Okay, because I know Ali from Kinetica wanted a couple of minutes, unless she comes back on. Right, moving on. We had a suggestion. This was from Andrew Price from PCRL, suggesting that there's a project to plant trees, and we're probably too late for the furze planting, but if anyone's got any ideas where we could plant some trees, then please get in touch, let us know, so that we can see if we can progress this as a community project and get some trees in place. And I was thinking my initial thought was sort of on the bend opposite the Royal going up towards the Scott, on the right hand side, which would in effect stop cars using it for parking. So that was my idea, but if anyone's got any better ideas or any ideas at all where they'd like to see some trees, then please let us know so that we can progress an application and take that forward. Another idea was on that bit of scrub land, and it is rubbishy old land, to the east of the old Baptist church, which is just completely overgrown, and I believe it belongs to Railways, but it might be worth having a word with them. So if anybody's sort of thinks that a good idea, or anywhere else come to that matter in Purfleet, then please get in touch so we've got something to take forward. We've got, this is another one for Trevor. World War II, anybody knows of anyone from Purfleet who died during the war? Trev?
Yeah, it's another one. This time it's regarding World War II. It's been cleared before, but we've got no memorial to soldiers who died during the Second World War. And it's something that Ensign Bus have picked up on as well. And they would like to do commemoration on the side of their buses as they did for the soldiers who died during the First World War. So we're looking for names of people, anybody that knows anything regarding any of the soldiers who lived in Purfleet and died during World War II, to let us know or let me know. And, you know, we'll put it all forward and get them commemorated as they should be. So that's, you know, just something. With Ensign, they were brilliant because they had the signs on the side of their bus for a year, and I think some of them are still on the buses. So it's good to acknowledge. So if that can happen, John.
Thank you, Trev. Right, the last bit that I've got anyway is our AGM will be the last Tuesday in January 2021. Which is, Secretary hasn't told me what the date is. But anyway, it's the last Tuesday in January. If anybody's interested in that aspect, if anyone would like to stand as a committee member, because we will all stand down, and as far as I'm aware, the committee executive, as in me, Trevor, Claire and Hilary, who is treasurer, and our general committee, which is Moira and Adrian and Elaine and who else?
Paddy and Lawrence.
Yeah, Paddy and Lawrence. And Claire, help me out here.
Lynn.
Lynn Mansfield.
For such a long
Yeah,
time.
we haven't seen anything for so long. Lynn Mansfield, yeah. But anyway, the existing committees, they're all willing to stand again. But if anybody would like to stand, because we've got the requisite number, which is 12. But because we all stand down, and all have to be re-elected. If anybody else has got an interest in being involved, then please write to Claire, who is secretary at purfleetcf.org.uk. Then we can set the balls rolling, so to speak. I don't know, Victoria's here. Have you got any little snippets you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, very, very happy to share a couple of bits. I know I'm mindful of the time, so I won't take up too much of anyone else's evening. A couple of main things, really. I mean, I was going to ask a question about the new road layout and cycling and the the cycling and walking, because I think that's just a huge missed opportunity, because I think a lot of our paths do need widening. So I think it's a missed opportunity, but I am emailing Steve Lines about that separately. The other kind of main thing that people might have seen is with regards to there's going to be changes to the bins. A lot of areas in the borough haven't had fantastic bin collections over throughout COVID. And that's been down to, the reason we've been given is because of workforce issues, vacant posts, etc. But it was agreed by the administration a couple of weeks ago now that the bin collections will be going to fortnightly bins. So 2 out of the 3 bins will now be collected fortnightly. So obviously that's a huge change to the delivery of the service. And then the other thing I'll just mention, because it fits in with my portfolio, my shadow portfolio, is a bit about health and COVID, if people are interested. Broadly, Thurrock, as people again might have been monitoring, Thurrock has actually been doing, in comparison to other places in the country, comparatively very well. We've remained in the bottom third or quarter of COVID cases, and we obviously stayed in tier 1 before lockdown. The range of reasons that are looked at to decide how we and why we stay in the tiers we stay in is to do with the number of people per 100,000. It also is the number of people being admitted to hospital, the number of people that are in the over 60 group that have got tested positive. And I would say that, you know, if people have been looking at the news, the numbers of people that have contracted COVID in Thurrock has gone up. But that's in line with other areas, and there is an increase in testing. Broadly, obviously the government are trying to improve track and trace, which isn't going very well nationally, but locally we have got a very good public health team at the council who are monitoring that very closely. And now the priority is very much shifted to sorting out the vaccine and getting ready for when we can roll out the vaccine, which will be given to priority groups and key workers first, so those in high risk health groups and key workers first, and then rolled out to everyone else after. The time frame of that is probably a bit ambitious from what the government is saying. Practically, there isn't enough NHS workforce to ensure that everyone gets the vaccine in the first half of 2021, but it's still really, really positive that we do have a vaccine. So I'll keep it at that. I know that's only a couple of areas. If anyone's got any questions on health, bins, or anything else, or any issues they'd like to raise, I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts on the fortnightly collections as well. If anyone had any thoughts on that I can feed back to my leader and my group as well, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions for Vic?
Yeah, is the green bin going to be the same week as the brown bin?
I don't know the details of what bin is going to be collected when and with which one, because they've only announced that they're going to move it to 2 weeks. They haven't said what's going to be in which week. It won't come into force till next April. So they're going through the planning at the moment. So as soon as I know more details about the specifics of which bin is going to be collected when, I'll definitely let you know.
With regard to the narrow paths in Purfleet, the bins are an issue. Because where I live, you have to step in the road when the bins are out, and if we are given another bin, that will be 4 bins that we've got, which is, you know, more storage space needed, etc., etc.
I agree with you. I'm obviously, you know, my view on it is that I don't think it's a good idea. It doesn't seem very well planned or ideas. The 4th bin, I'm not sure on the detail. I don't know if it's going to be another wheelie bin or half as small as the current wheelie bins, or a kind of food caddy type bin. But either way, you're right, it's more storage, and actually it's an additional kind of different. I mean, it would have to be delivered and collected differently because of the size of the different sizes of the bins. So yeah, how a lot of these things work out in when it comes to it is definitely a question for me.
Anyone else?
Yeah, following on from that regarding the bins, this is one for the team. On the original plans for the development, I'm certain that bins were going to be not in sight. The type of collection plans was going to be so that the bins weren't going to be like visible. Is that still the case?
I'm not sure, but I can find out.
No, this is one I think for PCRL.
Oh, okay. I think they're all gone. Have they all gone?
No,
you want to do that, Jason, or do you want me to?
Yeah, no. So the aspiration for the scheme is actually to utilize a centralized waste management system whereby there will be underground waste facilities provided at the end of each street, or at the appropriate lengths along each street. And there are minimum dimensions to make people walk as well, so they're not too far from any particular house. What we're trying to move away from is to have individual houses having their own bin storage cluttering up the streetscape, and it's far better for both an efficiency of operations and also centralising all the waste so that we can keep them and so these centralised waste management system across the scheme. That's the current proposal. It's very much supported by Thurrock.
Anyone else got any questions for either Victoria or us or in the PCRL?
I can see some bits on the chat, John. If you want to go through these, just to have a look. Something about antisocial behaviour. Oh, I don't think that's for me. Can the forum invite a representative for the police to come and speak about antisocial behaviour?
Yes.
On Caspian Way.
Yeah.
Not for the forum. Oh, sorry.
Our police, I know that when our local community Bobby was with us, he was absolutely brilliant. But now he's moved on. He's still with antisocial, but he's not local. It all seems to have dropped by the wayside again. But for the next meeting, we will endeavour to, I think, see if we can get a representative from the police to come along.
I can drop an email to the police as well, just to add my voice on this one, because it sometimes helps.
Yeah.
I know
one just jumping in.
Social. Trevor. No, I was talking. Yeah. There was a bit there about antisocial. I know that Alan Dodd has got major issues with his area on Caspian Way. Not Caspian Way, it's on the Caspian estate that I think need to be addressed. So if you could, Alan, liaise with Victoria, because she's our council representative today, and perhaps can move that forward. Perhaps you could have a little chin wag after the meeting. That would be good.
Yep, I'll just put my email address on here for anyone that hasn't got it. It's on the Thurrock Council website as well. But if anyone's got any views, because I'm just seeing the comments about the bins, which is really helpful. Yeah, the families one is a really good point. It will be terrible for families.
Yeah. Okay, Trevor, sorry, what was you saying?
No, just regarding our local sort of PC is PC Tom Strong. There's three, but here's the one that I've been chatting to, and to be fair, if I email him, he responds almost instantly. He's very good from that point of view. He's not wanting to come on and give chats or anything like that. He just says he doesn't do that sort of thing, but he'll answer any questions. So I didn't invite him on, obviously, to this meeting, so it's going to be quite a full meeting, but we will get him on board or somebody to come on board for the AGM meeting in January.
Thanks, Trev. Anyone else got any questions for either us or Victoria or PCRL?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, I've been trying to ask for something for ages, and I just realised I was mute. Anyway, Victoria.
Yes.
Now,
Hi.
talking about the COVID vaccine, I read somewhere that St John's Ambulance were actually going to be training people to give vaccinations, volunteers. Is this? Do you know anything about this? Because as far as I know, doctors in Thurrock won't be given the vaccine. They haven't got the capacity, and it's going to be it's going to be in different centres in Thurrock.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't heard that St John's Ambulance will be training volunteers. I wouldn't put anything past the government trying to roll this out, but I would say that the guidance on the vaccines have been very clear that it needs to be administered by a healthcare professional. And you know, and that's very clear, and that is because not only obviously it is a new vaccine, it is licensed.
Victoria, not administered, supervised by a healthcare professional, not administered by one.
Right. So I think that I'm not. Yeah.
Which means it could be volunteers.
Yeah, I think that they are looking at, for sure, ways to increase capacity in the health workforce, because without more people administering the vaccine, it won't be conceivable to get the vaccine out there at the timescale the government want. So it's not something I've heard, but I'll definitely look into it. But it wouldn't surprise me if you look at all of the healthcare professionals that are in Thurrock, and not just Thurrock, but across the country, there physically aren't enough people to administer the vaccine. What the vaccine also says is that after you've received each dose, obviously 4 weeks apart, you have to sit there for about 15 minutes with the person administering the vaccine, just to check that you're okay. So of course that adds even more time.
Victoria, that's a protocol for any vaccine. You're supposed to sit for 10 to 15 minutes afterwards with the person that's administered it. But they put that by the wayside at the moment with the flu vaccines. But that is the actual protocol.
Yes, that's very true. Yes, no, you're right. That is very true. I think as well, I mean, to be honest with you, I've only heard, and actually, you know, quite often the public health team are hearing about the plans for the vaccine and the rollout the same time we are. It's coming out in the news, and it's at a very fast pace. So yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to keep updated on what is happening. And as far as I'm aware, it does have to be a healthcare professional, but it makes sense that they are going to have to recruit wider, for sure.
I can come in now. I've just seen Ding reappear, and I know that Ding is now. Are you the lead, Ding, in taking forward the film studios and the TV studios? According to the latest newsletter, or have I got it wrong?
Your Ding's on mute.
Ding's on mute.
Oh, right. Let's unmute Ding. Can you? Oh, yeah.
I'm very privileged to be able to do that. I am obviously part of the team to help in any way that I can for the Purfleet Studios. But if there is a lead, I think Mr. Ken Dytle would be the person to speak about that. But
I don't know. I was only going by what I'd read in the newsletter. Jason, can you?
Yeah, I can answer that, John.
Right.
John, I can answer that. Yeah, no, Ding will be part of the team. Obviously, is there a specific question you wanted to raise?
Yeah, it was just what is the situation then regarding our film and TV studios in moving forwards?
Absolutely. So we've appointed Knight Frank and CBRE capital markets teams to put together an investment teaser. There's a lot of interest from occupiers and investors into the studios. The timing is first class, and we're now putting proposals together to take forward the studios. So we're expecting to see some meaningful progress in the next couple of months.
that would be great if you can sort of keep us updated with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ding or myself or anyone else in the team will be happy to answer you offline, John.
Yes, thanks, Ken. Has anyone else got any questions for the team or us or Victoria? Because we've got a couple of minutes. 4 minutes.
I've got a quick comment, John, if that's all right.
Yes, Lisa.
Yeah. So just to remind people, obviously with the Caspian Way stuff, I've put something in the chat and someone has direct messaged me as well. So hopefully we'll look at that tomorrow. There's 320 members on the Purfleet Neighbourhood Watch Facebook page, but unfortunately just being a member of the Facebook page doesn't necessarily make you a signed up member to Neighbourhood Watch. So just once again, I'd reiterate, if you do want the signs up in your street, if you want to be part of the Thurrock wider Neighbourhood Watch group, then please get in touch with me through that Facebook page. There are signs that I sourced over the summer ready and waiting to go up in Caspian Way. But unfortunately, no one wants to come forward as members or coordinators at the moment. So if we can get that changed, then we can get the signs up. It does help reducing the antisocial behaviour and crime with the visual signs being up. And then hopefully we can work towards you creating a safer community space over there. But please do get in touch because it's about us all working together. And like I say, the signs are sitting in my front room, but I can't put them up without coordinators. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Right, we're nearly out of time. If everybody's said their pieces, that's great. What I would ask is, oh yeah, don't forget the photographic competition. But what I would ask, if you enjoyed tonight's meeting, then please let us know. If you didn't enjoy tonight's meeting, then again, please let us know, because Trevor and I put out, I don't know, at least 4 newsletters, which Trevor and I put a lot of time and work into. And although we ask for responses, we don't get it. So please, if you enjoyed this, then let us know, because it's easier for us, and then we know it's a way forward until such times as perhaps we can all get together and have another open meeting.
Goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, so it's good night for me. Good night from Christine, and thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Cheers, John. Well done.
Great meeting.
Well done, John.
Well done.
Thanks,
Well
Trevor.
done all.
Great stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Garrett, perhaps we can have a debrief tomorrow.
Absolutely. I look forward to it already, John.
Yeah. Give us a bell when you've got a minute.
Will do. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, cheers.
Good night.
Bye.
I should say 2021 on there, not 2020.